Large language models have advanced at a staggering pace over the past few years by training on vast amounts of internet data. So that has fueled excitement about humanoid robots, with some predicting that they could soon perform jobs such as plumbing or surgery. Our guest says robots can't be trained the same way as AI models and will take far longer to master even simple human tasks, like changing a light bulb or holding a wine glass. We're joined by Ken Goldberg, Professor of Engineering and President of the Robot Learning Foundation at UC Berkeley. Thanks very much. You've had a fascinating career. I know you patented at one stage a robot gripper, and you worked on a project where people could remotely plant seeds and water a garden over the internet using robotics. So you've done a lot of stuff with an artistic side to it sometimes. Thank you very much for joining us. Can we start out? What do we mean by a humanoid robot? Is it one that vaguely has the form of a human being?
Exactly, Andrew. That's exactly what we talk about. So there's a lot of robot arms out there, but a humanoid is a robot that looks like a human, like you and I.
Why couldn't it be a spider or like one of those robot dogs? Or what's important about it looking like a human?
Well, it's a great question. People have wanted to build creatures, mechanical creatures, for thousands of years, going all the way back to the Egyptians. But there's an argument today that this is very timely, that we have so-called need for workers, and especially for jobs that people don't want to do, and that the robot should look as much like we do as possible, so then it can just step in and do those jobs that humans are doing.
You say that there's an important difference between learning to fix somebody's plumbing and answering questions about a Dickens novel using a large language model. What is the vital difference there?
Okay, great. So I'm so glad you asked, because a lot of people have watched the amazing things with ChatGPT and other tools like that, right? And it is quite astounding. It can do many things as good as a human. But so people think, okay, now we're very close to having robots. And they say, when is the ChatGPT moment for robotics? And I am very concerned that that moment may be much further away than people think.
Why is that?
Okay, because the learning a language, learning to speak or do text, is essentially one-dimensional, and you have a string of characters or a string of words. And robots is much higher dimensional. You have to control all of the joints. And for a humanoid robot, there might be 50 or more joints that have to be controlled, all in perfect synchrony. The other problem is that we have data to train our systems for language. So my students and I estimate that there's about 100,000 years of textual data available on the internet. In other words, that's how long it would take you or I to sit down and read all the information on the internet, all the texts. But we have no data for robotics. So we're just starting to collect that data. So it may take quite a long time before we have enough.
People are training robots, though, to assemble things, aren't they?
Well, there's a lot of work on that, and there's a lot of excitement about it. So many companies and many researchers, including my own lab, are trying to do this. And so there is some initial progress, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do it. But I just want to say that it's not going to happen overnight. I don't expect it to happen within a year, within 5 years. I'm really concerned it might not even happen within 10 years.
What about self-driving cars? They don't, in theory, need the dexterity you would need to arrange flowers.
Right. So driving is actually a great example. There, you just want to avoid objects. You just don't want to hit anything. So that's actually turns out to be much easier. It's still difficult, very challenging. And in fact, the data has been collected over the last 10, 15 years to make that possible. So there is progress there. And it's very exciting. So we're getting to the point where these systems are available on many cities in the United States and in China, and I'm sure it's coming to Canada very soon.
I saw one story that some of these, I think it was the Waymo vehicles, are getting more aggressive. They used to be super passive and cautious, but apparently they've tweaked the algorithm to make them get around a bit faster.
Right. So there is the idea that if you're trying to catch a cab to the airport, that you don't want something that's going to be super cautious, which has been a characteristic. Yes. So they have been getting a little more aggressive, and that's a concern for everybody on the streets, all pedestrians and bike riders.
So if one of my daughters wants to become a plumber, I could say, yeah, that's a good idea. You could travel the world with that skill, for example.
Absolutely, you'll never be out of a job. I can tell you, I will bet I would think it's a very safe bet that plumbers, electricians, car repair people, people working in restaurants, they're going to have their job security is very, very good for the foreseeable future. We're going to need them because humans are incredibly dexterous. We're able to tie knots, to cut cables, to fashion things. It's incredible. And I've been working in this field for 40 years. And every day, as I try to reproduce these things in robots, I have more and more respect for the incredible dexterity of humans.
Tell us, you do these artistic flavored projects. What's your next one? Can you tell us?
Thank you. We have one opening on Thursday in San Francisco. And it's a collection of sculptures and videos that explore the ideas around AI in the context of history and culture. So we're working on them as I was working on them up to 5 minutes ago, and we're still trying to get all the pieces together. But we're trying to basically talk about AI from a critical perspective and think about what really matters, which is really human beings.
I know I'm going too long here, but are you frightened of AI and the risk that it will take over and ultimately try to destroy us?
I'm not. And actually, most of my colleagues don't fear that either. We understand that AI has a lot of limitations, and there's a lot of science fiction out there, as you know. And so people think that it's about to live up to all of those, old movies and novels. But it's really quite far from that. And so it's not something to be afraid of. I think it's actually something to embrace and explore. And I think it's going to be much more positive effect on society and culture than negative.
Speaking of science fiction, we have to go, but that robot, that poster, that schematic to the left of you, is that the
Yes.
robot from the original Lost in Space series?
That is good. You're a very good spot on that. That's Robbie the robot from Lost in Space, which I watched as a kid.
Oh yeah, me
and
too.
Then there's a robot from Metropolis, another
Yes.
old film. So yes, I try to think about these things in the context of history and culture and really what matters.
I watched that show as a kid, and my father told me that I used to hide behind the couch when a scary alien would come along. But I love the show. Thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure, Andrew.
Ken Goldberg, president of the Robot Learning Foundation at UC Berkeley.